Jarrell Miller stops Fred Kassi in the third round. That's right. This fight only went 3 rounds. Fred Kassi quit on his stool after the end of the third, citing a hand injury. Now, it's pretty unusual for a fighter to quit with a hand injury. If it was a shoulder injury, a leg injury, a jaw injury, etc., then yeah, fighters do fairly often quit with those type of injuries. But when it comes to hand injuries, fighters normally fight through that. They normally go the distance, or at least attempt to go the distance with hand injuries. But here we had Fred Kassi quitting. After the fight, he said, well, there was a big, strong guy in front of me and he was throwing a lot of punches. And he basically said that he was worried because he didn't have anything to keep Jarrell Miller off of him with. And Jarrell Miller's obviously a very big, strong man. He was nearly 300 pounds for this fight. In the first round, Fred Kassi got the better of things. He was getting his shots off quickly against the very, very big, strong guy. In the second round, Jarrell Miller started taking control. In the third round, he actually hurt Fred Kassi, had him in pretty bad trouble. And as I say, at the end of the third, Kassi quit. Now, some people are going to say, well, we don't know what would have happened if Fred Kassi hadn't hurt his hand. And that's fair comment. But I'm sure Fred Kassi has had niggles and injuries and all types of things in other fights and hasn't quit. But here against Jarrell Miller, he did. I personally think that Jarrell Miller is better than a lot of people realize at the moment. I'm not saying Jarrell Miller is going to be the kingpin of the heavyweight division or anything like that. Don't get it confused. I'm just saying people might be underestimating him a little bit because of the fact that he is fat. And let's not beat around the bush here. Jarrell Miller is overweight as hell. The guy's 6'4", he weighs damn near 300 pounds. This was actually his career heaviest. But, Jarrell Miller does some good things in there as a fighter. He lets his hands go. He throws in combinations. He's a pretty good body puncher. He's obviously a huge guy. And I suspect that he probably takes a pretty good shot, this guy. And one interesting thing about Jarrell Miller is that up until 2014, he was also a professional kickboxer. And he's been kickboxing and boxing simultaneously since he was a teenager. That's pretty unusual to have a guy competing in 2 sports simultaneously, even as a professional. And I'm talking about 2 combat sports here, not like Corey Sanders, who was doing rugby, golf, and boxing all at the same time. No, this is a guy who was doing 2 combat sports simultaneously. And he only stopped kickboxing in 2014. And I've had a look at a few of his kickboxing fights. And again, I haven't seen him get knocked out, wobbled, or anything like that. I was watching one of his fights against Crow Cop. Crow Cop is a pretty well-known kickboxer who competed particularly in the K1 circuit in Japan. And I mean, one of Crow Cop's famous wins was over Bob Sapp, where he managed to knock Bob Sapp out pretty quickly. I think that was a first round KO. I'm not sure how many times he fought Bob Sapp, but in the fight of, the Bob Sapp fight that I saw with Crow Cop, he knocked him out in the first. But anyway, I digress. I haven't seen Miller hurt before, shaken, or anything like that in any of his kickboxing fights. I haven't been able to find any evidence of him being hurt or shaken. So, yeah, I suspect this guy's got a pretty good chin. He's a very big man, throws a lot of punches. He's obviously got punching power. He likes to go to the body. He's not a Derek Chisora who doesn't punch correctly, who slaps. He's not like that. This guy punches correctly. The weight is the main issue with him. I mean, he's not the greatest, boxer in terms of boxing skills or anything like that, but his technique seems fairly sound, relatively speaking. The fundamentals seem to be there. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what Jarrell Miller can do. Big, strong guy. Definitely got a lot of trash talk. After the fight, he was calling out Joshua, saying that, Joshua's off modeling Calvin Klein and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, taking a piss out of Joshua, having a go at Wilder, Fury, all that type of stuff. And he does it with tongue in cheek and a twinkle in his eye. He's a cheeky character. I think some people take what Jarrell Miller is doing as just straight up arrogance, and that's fair enough. But to me, he comes across as somebody that's having fun with the trash talk, kind of like Tyson Fury or even Shannon Briggs, a guy who's trash talking, but it's jokey. It's funny, So, yeah, there you go. Jarrell Miller does a better job against Fred Kassi than anybody else has so far, stopping him in 3 rounds. How much of it was down to the hand injury, the alleged hand injury that Fred Kassi suffered, or how much of it was down to Jarrell Miller putting on the pressure? I think you have to say it's a bit of both. The commentators seem to feel that Jarrell Miller would have got Fred Kassi out of there anyway. So, we'll never know, but it goes down as a win, and a more impressive win than anybody else has had against Fred Kassi. So, Jarrell Miller marches onwards and upwards. There is a video of him on YouTube, which some of you may want to check out, where he is in the ring face-to-face with Andy Ruiz, and he's calling Ruiz out. Ruiz is somebody that he is very interested in fighting. He's apparently told his management team that he wants them to try and push and make that Ruiz fight. I'd like to see it. Battle of the Fat Boys. Ruiz is quick-handed himself, can punch a bit himself. So him against Jarrell Miller, yeah, I'd like to see it. I think that could be a potentially good fight. The 2 fat boys clashing. Yeah, 2 fat boys who can actually fight. I'm not being disrespectful when I say fat boys. They are fat, but they can fight. They can knock people out, send their jaws spinning. Send them spinning around like whirling dervishes, like Amir Khan when he got hit by Danny Garcia left hook. So yeah, let me know what you felt about Jarrell Miller's performance against Fred Kassi. Were you impressed by the fact he managed to take him out in 3 rounds? A lot of people were very critical of Hughie Fury in his performance against Fred Kassi. Jarrell Miller certainly looked more impressive than Hughie Fury did. Let that be known. Yeah, just let me know how you feel, people. Who would you like to see Jarrell Miller fight next? What would you think? What do you think would be a good step up for him? Would you like to see the Ruiz fight? I'm sure people are going to crack jokes about that potential Miller versus Ruiz fight. They're going to be talking about hot dog eating contests instead of boxing matches and all that. It's all good. Let me know how you feel in the comment section below, people. It's your boy